Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. I'm John, one half of the Corporate Breakout Couple. Ever since my wife Fran and I gained our financial independence in 2020, we are very fortunate to have met other like-minded people who are also financially independent like us. In today's interview, we have a special guest for you. He's a family man with kids, owns his own financial advisory business, and runs an educational business as well, which includes 2 YouTube channels. Well, he's a pretty astute guy if you're familiar with his YouTube handle. He's none other than Josh Tan from Singapore. But before we begin, do hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and join our YouTube family. Hey Josh, thanks for being on our channel.
Hey, no problems.
Can you share with our audience what's your personal background and your family background?
I live in Singapore, age 39 this year, and my background, my son was asking me this question also very recently, because in schools, they always ask, can you go and find out what your parents are working as? So I'd also answer this question, what do I do and stuff. So I told him that I do financial advisory work. Then he went blank. It was such a complex thing. I was teaching him investments. What is investments? It was so difficult for him to understand. So nowadays I tell him, okay, Daddy, teach on YouTube on finance. Then finance is money. So in simplistic terms, that is what I do. On professional side, I advise clients. On the YouTube side, I talk a lot about finance, whether it's money, investments, property. So these are topics that I'm very passionate about.
Can you share with the audience more about your 2 YouTube channels, which is amazing because I really don't know how you can find the time to run 2 successful YouTube businesses.
It takes a lot of effort, definitely. But I mean, when you enjoy the project, right, work becomes fun also, right, in a lot of ways. So how I run 2 of them, or why there are 2 of them, maybe I can give a bit of background also. So in the YouTube journey, we realized that audiences gravitate to a certain style of content. So my first main channel was touching a lot more on investments, right? Retirement planning, which you guys are, very interested in, retirement.
Definitely.
So in that sense, that became the nature of that channel. So I decided maybe I need a more podcast method, right? Interviewing people, finding more on other people's stories. I decided that a second channel might be suitable in that sense, where that's focused purely more on interviews, a more simplistic way of sharing about finance, rather than, because when it comes to investments, it's very detailed, right? We are talking technical stuff, we're talking all the jargons. But on the other podcast, then we simplify it. Money in a simple manner, especially for young audience. I think that's what I wanted to achieve. Yeah, so that's why there's 2 channels right now that you see, and I post on them regularly. You can actually see them, and the process of posting is building a habit in terms of formulating right content for each channel and being consistent with that.
So guys, if you want to check out Josh's channel, he has 2 channels, which is the Astute Parent and the Josh Tan Show. What drives you as an individual, a family man, and as a team leader in your finance industry?
This whole path of how I've built to where I am today, it started really 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when my wife became pregnant. I was going to be a dad for the first time. Previously, I always resisted tech. I was so late to adopt smartphones. It was quite hilarious. I kept defending that point of view that, hey, maybe I don't need tech, maybe I don't need tech. But when I was a kid, I realized maybe the next generation, they need to understand a lot on e-commerce. They need to understand a lot on social media. That's where I changed my attitude. Okay, maybe I need to start delving into it. Be very familiar with the online space. So what drove me that change is really thinking from my son's perspective, what he needs for his future. Can I be a leg up for him in that direction rather than I have no clue at all? So what I did is I actually started a first website, The Astute Parent, where I wrote blog articles. Then what happened is, along the years, I realized things transited to more of a video format. That's why I realized, hey, maybe I would like to teach him on the video format method, how to actually present yourself, how to convey your ideas, how to impact people through a video format. So gradually, I moved towards YouTube. And along the way, of course, that ties into my work in financial advisory. Previously, I wrote articles, I wrote breakdowns of products. So when people were looking for reviews, I wanted to present the best ideas, the simplest way to understand the product quickly, to determine for themselves whether they like it or not. Then I realized also the video format, that's where I could teach a bit more on investing. I can pull up charts, I can show in my tone what I like, what I don't like. So in that way, that drove the entire journey from how I didn't like technology to eventually starting websites and building a YouTube channel. And right now, in what drives me on a day-to-day basis, I think it's a lot on impacting people. Because now I've learned some things. Maybe I could have stopped there. I can teach my son, hey, I now know a little bit. I can scratch the surface. I can teach you. But in this journey, I also realized I impacted other people's lives. People who met me on the streets, they say a big thank you. I'm appreciative of it also. And I realized when I teach them on finance, little bit by little bit, I change some of their habits, I change some of their mental blocks, and I gave them some better direction. And I realized that's very meaningful, and that's what drives me on a day-to-day basis to keep producing content. Right now it's 2 or 3 a week, and that is how I've persisted. So
that's amazing, because you started out with your son as your key motivator.
Yes.
That evolved into a whole different kind of platforms, and you're impacting people in different ways. That's really amazing, Josh.
I think how we start is usually not how we progress along the way. I think that's something very unique. If we start with too big a mission, sometimes we get scared of failure. Sometimes we think the mountain is too big. So, but at the core, I think it's still really a family. That's at least how I approach things. So that's my key driver. Then it becomes a business. Then let that germinate in a new way, and let's see what the market responds.
Excellent. Josh, you're financially independent, and that's a wonderful achievement. And you shared with me before that you split your time between your content creation, which is your educational business, and your financial advisory business. It's super hard work, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Right now, they seem like two separate businesses, but actually at the essence of things, it's all related to finance. Just a quick story. About 10, 15 years ago, I actually started an ice cream business. Yeah. It's like everybody has a dream. I want to be in cafe, I want to do F&B, it's so easy. I want to build multiple streams of income so that I can reach financial freedom. So that was my thinking process also 10, 15 years ago. So what happened is, I realized that when I started an ice cream business, the starting was fun. But when you really start it, you realize how well suited you are, how much you know about the industry. You guys have started your food business also. You realize that if you are not innately in the industry, the learning curve is very steep.
Exactly.
What to order, how to negotiate with suppliers, what rent.
Running the whole operation.
Exactly. How to bring in customers.
Yes.
So in that portion, I realized my skill set wasn't suited for the F&B industry. Same with anybody who changes in industry. So using that learning point, I realized it's better to always build a business or focus on something that you already have experience or you're innately passionate about, or you have done it for many years. Then you can sidestep all these mistakes. And actually when you build more than one along that space, it's not too difficult. So back to the point on YouTube and financial advisory. Right now the YouTube portion is my lead generation. How I find customers. While I impact people, customers themselves reach me through that funnel. So it's something that I've also shared on my conference, how to attract, how to not go on the streets to find customers, but to attract them in a different way, in a social media way. So that ties in with my advisory work at the hip. One is where I find customers, and the other is where I actually impact them on a personal basis, tie on that personal relationship and get them started. So in some ways, these two are tied together.
Yeah, and that's really thinking out of the box, right?
Yes.
Because I know of many financial consultants, advisors who are going through the traditional route of cold calling and the other traditional ways of lead generation. And what you have done to create the channel as a lead generation is really thinking out of the box and different from a lot of other people.
I'll actually suggest this book, Blue Ocean. It's actually something that teaches if you are able to use adjacent industry methods, right, then you can create a new space that's unique for yourself. And when I read that book, I was thinking, hey, how I can adopt some of their principles. Because if you go the traditional route, it's a red ocean whereby it's blood, it's competition. To stand out is not easy. So when I learned some of the principles over there, I adopted for my own industry. And I guess viewers listening in, you may be from a different industry. What can you do that's from an adjacent industry that you can adopt to supercharge your own business or supercharge your own career? So hopefully that has some impact.
What are the reasons why you stay committed and heavily engaged with your community?
That's a good question actually. I actually heard this saying, community is something, the new age way of networking. When you build a community, you have access to people around you that bring other people in. And in that way, that's a new social media way of networking. how I realize things is when you build a community, you need to answer questions, and in that process, you also learn new things. So engaging in a community is what I do on a daily basis. For anyone who likes to build a brand, I think that's a new method to stay focused and also give your own value on an ongoing basis.
And have a two-way relationship, right?
Correct. And in that process, you also see that there could be haters. You know, when we go to the internet space nowadays, there's a lot of trolling, there's a lot of social media bullying and stuff. Don't be afraid of it. Put yourself out there in the market. There will be naysayers. That's like always the 1%, no matter how good you are.
Yeah.
And dealing with it, that's what everybody goes through in the process of building community. There'll be people who disagree with you, there'll be people who agree with you. And if you want super fans, people who really support you and be part of your community and be your voice when you're not around, even when you're on vacation, then you need to be okay that certain haters will also come on board. And what I would like to suggest also is focus more on the people who support you. Don't give too much weight on the haters.
Yeah.
Don't let it distract you. Don't let it persuade you to stop what you are doing. Keep on to that mission. I think that's something that if you would like to start your own project, keep that in mind. That affects everybody, and take each step forward.
Oh, that's fantastic advice. And guys, if you have aspirations to be a content creator, this is golden advice for you. What are your current goals for the immediate future?
Well, that's like some interview question for John.
Yeah, for the maybe next 2 to 3 years horizon.
Yes. I think it's important to set goals. That gives you direction of where you want to get to. That keeps you motivated also. And that tells you certain feedback on what you need to change. So in terms of goals, I also break down with myself and who I work with. On the advisory side, I hope to build certain targets in terms of where I bring in terms of asset under management. In advisory work, I manage investments. So I have certain personal targets on what I want to hit. That tells me that I've impacted enough people also. So that's on the professional work side. Then in terms of brand, in terms of YouTube, I can share a bit also how I've evolved things along the way. How about that? So when I started YouTube, that was like a first move. Then back 3 years ago, I was thinking, can I write a digital product? Because we learn on channels, you can build multiple streams of income that are digital. So I wrote an ebook. I got an intern in to kind of write a draft first so that I can layer on quickly on it and test the market whether that product is viable or not. And indeed it was. So I actually sold like more than 100 copies of an ebook. Yes, correct. So having a presence, then you can bring on your products. So that was the first move of creating a digital product, step one. So 2 years ago, then I next moved to creating an online course, an online investment course to be specific. I want to teach on investments, giving more details. Because when I present on the channel, it's really an end result. And what I wanted to achieve is to teach people a bit deeper on investing, which is something I'm very passionate about. So on the channel, what I present is already the end product, the cake, if you were to bake. But in the process, what to do, that's what I wanted to deliver. So for people, for audiences who want to learn, that was a second goal that I achieved, building a digital product via an e-course. So then last year I was also thinking, hey, what's the next challenge?
What's next, right?
What's next, right? Because growth is always challenging yourself. Growth is always finding a new frontier of space that you can build your brand a little bit further. And each year you compound that effort, that's where it becomes successful. So I realized, hey, maybe I should do a live event. Anyway, it's post-pandemic already. So last year what I actually did was a finance summit. I managed to pull 50 people in. I was just thinking, who in the world would pay to come and see me? I was also curious. But indeed, there are enough fans that would like to come down to a finance summit to shake hands, to learn on a face-to-face basis what they can do for their own finances. So that was a thing that I delivered last year. So for this year, what I did was a lot of short-form content. I was breaking through in TikTok, I was breaking through in the IG format, because I realized that's something that I haven't paid enough attention to. So as you realize, goals you always set one by one. Next year, what will it be? I'm also not too sure. But I'm also curious to find out what are the new changes on the market, or what will people want to adopt. And then from there, we create a product and suit that as it comes along.
It seems that the path you have taken is, if I dare to say, radically different from the majority of the others. And it's not an easy path. So my question for you is, how do you find the courage and the tenacity and the drive to do something like starting a new business? Maybe you just have an idea. How do you have that courage to just even start?
I actually studied accounting. That was my training in school. So I would say that 90% of my peers actually went into the audit route. So in a lot of ways, I already started different.
Yeah, that's very different.
That was scary at the start also. So as of right now, how I actually perceive it is, I guess many are afraid to make changes or career switches or starting a business or a side hustle when they have family commitment. That really ties them a lot now. And I guess, and I understand that worry also. So what I can share also is, when we start off, we always worry, do we have enough time? Because there are not many who are running businesses well and also having a family. There is a lot of commitment in terms of your mental energy. So in that sense, I also like to share that it's possible. Find your drive, and what I'll also say is that when push comes to shove, it's a balance of timing. You need to find the right mentors to guide you, how you allocate your time and energy. And in that sense, my journey was more of, I started the YouTube part as a side hustle, as a complement to my core work. So my advice is that facing on that side, how you can start a side hustle and germinate it to something that's big. So in some ways, that is a path that I've taken, and that's where I can advise on. But if you like to start a business brand new, then you need to find a mentor that is good at starting businesses from scratch, full time in, not a side hustle. So a lot of ways, how you overcome certain fears, how you balance your time, find the right mentors, and you realize there are actually shortcuts to how you can actually manage things.
So I would say that one of the first key points about starting a business is actually having the clarity whether it is a side hustle, is it going to be a full-time business, and then decide the course of action.
Yes, correct. Side hustle is always an easier way to get started. Correct. There's not too much pressure. Again, especially if you have kids, you have a commitment in terms of expenses, it makes it a bit harder. That's natural. But don't let it stop you from starting. And then find people who have actually built side hustles into something big, and take their path and find some wisdom from there.
Yeah, I love that spirit. Finally, Josh, what makes you happy in life?
I think happiness is very important if you are watching and also thinking how to be happy. It's a daily process. Actually, I came across this quote by Kobe Bryant. Rest not in the middle, but rest at the end. That's when you want to build something. When you're tired, persevere. So that quote really relates to persevering right to the very end. But that does not apply to happiness actually. Happiness is a process. Don't wait until you reach financial freedom. Don't wait until you reach retirement before you seek happiness. Enjoy the process. Don't sacrifice unnecessarily, because you don't know how long you'll live in a lot of ways. So in terms of finding happiness, I try to practice some things I've learned also from YouTube. How to be grateful for each day. Bring that spirit to each and everyone, and also impact your other half. Share with them the right mentality, the right mindset. So always finding happiness is a daily process, and I think it's a good way to round up the things. When we start projects, we think long term, but when we think about happiness, very often we are kicking the can down the road. Shouldn't be the case. Work towards there and enjoy the process. Then you realize that life is meaningful in a lot of ways.
Exactly, love that.
So hopefully I've answered some of the key questions that you had in mind, and as always, leave in the comment sections for all of us to pick up.
And there you have it, guys. Wonderful advice from a very accomplished man. Thank you, Josh. Thanks for being on our channel, and I really appreciate you having here.
Yes, hopefully you listening in also, you enjoy some of the things we shared.
Yeah, and do follow Josh on his two channels, his Astute Parent and Josh Tan Show. And as always, do like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and join our YouTube family. See you in our next video.
Bye.